In today's video, we have breaking news. A federal judge just declined to block the president from deploying National Guard troops into Chicago. This comes as the governor and the mayor continues to fight against the president because all he wants to do is keep Chicago safe. In this video, we're going to show you what both sides are saying and then give you the bottom line.
First, breaking tonight, President Trump and his team are calling what's happening in Chicago, Portland, and other cities around the country protesting his immigration enforcement policy insurrection. The president says he may invoke a law. It's called the Insurrection Act that would give him even broader powers. This is one federal judge declines to block the president's deployment of National Guard troops to Illinois, and another judge blocks the move in Portland. Senior White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich kicks us off tonight from the North Lawn. Hi, Jackie.
Hey, Jillian. National Guard troops being deployed in both Chicago and Portland, Oregon, are being mobilized under Title X. That means without the approval of the state's governor, acting under federal control. But they are barred from making arrests, generally, or carrying out any direct law enforcement activities under posse comitatus. That is, unless the president invokes the Insurrection Act, which he said tonight is on the table.
Okay, let me make sure you guys heard exactly what I heard. A federal judge declined to block the president from deploying National Guard troops to Chicago. That makes sense to me. Why would a judge stop a president from exercising his presidential authority? I have no idea. Oh, actually, I do have an idea. It's called judicial tyranny, folks. That's exactly what's occurring in our country. And as you guys see here on the screen, the state had sued the administration after the president deployed troops to the state against governor's wishes. Goes on to say that a federal judge will not immediately block National Guard troops from being deployed after a lawsuit from that state on Monday. Troops from Texas could be deployed to Chicago on Tuesday or Wednesday. And Trump is also seeking to federalize the National Guard in Illinois. A similar effort to deploy troops to Portland was blocked by a judge in Oregon. Now, let's hear more about this entire situation as things continue to develop throughout this day. Take a look.
So to speak.
President Trump not ruling out invoking the Insurrection Act, which would allow National Guard troops to carry out domestic law enforcement activities, even against the wishes of local authorities.
Well, I'd do it if it was necessary. So far, it hasn't been necessary.
Right now, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker suing to stop the Guard from deploying to Chicago under more narrow orders of protecting federal property, which doesn't require the Insurrection Act. But the war of words is escalating, Pritzker painting the troops as an unconstitutional invasion and accusing the administration of inciting violence they say they need to respond to.
This escalation of violence is targeted and intentional and premeditated. Why? To create the pretext for invoking the Insurrection Act so that he can send military troops to our city.
The White House defending mobilizations in Chicago and Portland, Oregon.
For more than 100 days, night after night after night, the ICE facility has been really under siege. We saw, again, a guillotine rolled out in front of this federal building.
Now, let's be clear about these recent developments, okay? Because there's a lot going on and it continues to repeat itself every single day. The mayor, the governor, they continue to fight against the president. And by doing so, they're putting the people of Chicago and all these other Democrat cities in danger because some of these individuals are unhinged. When you're ramming these ICE officers off the road and you're seeking to assault them, you're committing crimes, okay? And the fact that these local police departments are receiving stand-down orders, that even adds another element that increases the likelihood that a death could occur here. And so, listen, the president deploying National Guard troops, I have no issue with it at this point because these mayors and governors refuse to do the right thing. And they do it all in the name of compassion, they say, and they want to help their local... Guys, give us a break, okay? We need to keep people safe, and you do that by enforcing the law. Now, speaking of that, about enforcing the law, here's a guy who's in charge of Chicago Police Department, and he had an interesting statement that he wanted to tell the public today. Take a listen.
Federal agents, ICE, HSI, are officers. They are agents of law enforcement. If you box them in with vehicles, it is reasonable for them to believe that they are being ambushed. and that this could end in a deadly situation. And it's reasonable for them to use force based on those conditions. Do not box in any law enforcement officer. You are breaking the law when you do that. And you are putting yourself in danger. Following law enforcement agents around. The question is why? What do you plan on doing? It's also reasonable for them to believe that you're eventually going to do harm to them. If you ram any vehicle, especially that one that contains law enforcement agents, and that's any law enforcement, local, state, federal, county.
Now, would you imagine that? Someone who's in charge of their police department willing to tell the truth. I don't think we hear that often unless you're looking at the sheriff out of Florida. I mean, that's common. He doesn't back down from criminals. So I think it's refreshing to see someone from Chicago actually say the right thing. And he's right on the money. If you are out there obstructing justice, obstructing these law enforcement agencies from doing their job, you are committing crimes. And the fact that the Democrat Party does not condemn this behavior tells you everything you need to know. They want this to happen. They want the chaos because they're hoping all of this chaos could be blamed on President Trump. And it's an interesting strategy if you think about it, because they got nothing else to sell us. All they have right now is chaos, fight, obstruction, insurrection, woke ideology, etc. I think you guys know where I'm going with it. So let's hear more from Larry Snellen.
And you do this intentionally. This is considered deadly force. Deadly force is anything that can cause great bodily harm or death. When you plow into a vehicle that contains law enforcement agents, you're using deadly force. And they can use deadly force in response to stop you. We need to be clear about these laws. We cannot become a society where we just decide to take everything in our own hands and start to commit crimes against law enforcement. It is a crime. You may not like what they're doing. I can understand that there's a lot of emotions out there, but that does not mean that you get to commit a crime, especially one that could lead to deadly force.
All right, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but this is a huge announcement. So Trump Media Group partnered with Crypto.com in a $6.4 billion deal. Why is this so important? Well, in case you didn't know, I have a Crypto.com account, and I invested in the Trump meme coin earlier this year, and I was successful. Okay. And so when I heard about this news of Trump Media Group partnering with Crypto.com to establish the first American crypto treasury, I knew I had to be somewhat involved and figure out more information and then share it with you guys. See, you don't have to technically be an expert when it comes to crypto to participate in things like this. You just have to be aware, and you should probably have an account with Crypto.com, because understand something. What continues to happen to the American dollar, you know, and I know it. And I truly believe that Bitcoin is the future in some way, shape, or form, including crypto in general. So head over to Crypto.com, be a part of this movement, this historic change, and how this administration is backing the power of crypto. Again, head over to Crypto.com today. Now, he's giving people exactly what the law says. And it's interesting that it takes an individual of his position and authority to, I guess, communicate that, because you won't find that coming from the governor. You won't find that coming from the mayor. What you will find is hatred, divisive rhetoric, and gaslighting to the people of Chicago, that is. And that's why it's really great news that this judge declined to block the president, because I think the judge knows exactly what's going on in Chicago. Unfortunately, I guess in Oregon, they don't see it the same way because they invite that chaos. They accept it. It's part of their culture, part of their paradigm. Well, speaking of that, let's hear from the governor himself, because he did speak out today and continue to provide his delusional perspective about what's happening here. Take a listen.
I refuse to let Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, and Gregory Bovino continue on this march toward autocracy. Their plan all along has been to cause chaos and then they can use that chaos to consolidate Donald Trump's power. They think they can fool us all into thinking that the way to get out of this crisis that they created is to give them free rein. Well, that plan will only work if we let it. The state of Illinois is going to use every lever at our disposal to resist this power grab and get Noem's thugs the hell out of Chicago. I'm not afraid. I am not afraid, and I won't back down.
Well, it's good to see someone standing by what they believe in. The problem is he doesn't believe in the right things. Now, who am I to say that? Well, I'm just a guy communicating what's going on here. And based on what's going on, if we look at the results, this is a governor, including a mayor, who is continuing to put crime ahead of the people of Chicago, who is continuing to fight for criminals and fight against the people who are trying to get rid of the criminals. It just doesn't make sense, right? We have to be living in a simulation when you see this going on. Well, you know, if you need further information about how bad it is in Chicago, take a look at this next clip I'm going to show you. This is being shared by the DHS and communicated by a local affiliate news station, where they said a high-ranking gang member was charged for putting a bounty on the ICE officer who's in charge of Chicago. Did you hear what I said? Take a listen.
Breaking news that we're following this afternoon. A high-ranking member of a street gang is charged with putting a hit out on a senior law enforcement official involved with Operation Midway Blitz. Police arrested 37-year-old Juan Espinoza Martinez this morning. And according to the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Chicago, Martinez sent a Snapchat message stating, quote, $2K on information when you get him and $10K if you take him down. The Tribune reports the alleged target was Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino.
And here is Secretary Kristi Noem putting this on X. Brandon Johnson and J.B. Pritzker are doing everything in their power to shelter and protect criminal, illegal alien gangbangers, murderers, and violent anarchists. Chicago mayor just reaffirmed his allegiance to criminal, illegal aliens with his pathetic ice-free zones declaration. We talked about that earlier today. Fortunately for the innocent citizens of Chicago, the Trump administration doesn't protect criminals. We arrest them. And that is the bottom line here, folks. So let's recap here. Where are we at so far? Federal judge declined to block Trump, the president, from deploying National Guard troops to Chicago. So that will happen so far. Number two, the mayor established ice-free zones, which is just ridiculous when you hear about it. The governor is continuing to do everything he can to fight for the criminals. And who the heck is out there actually trying to keep these people safe? Well, it seems to me when we do the calculation, it's the president. Now, here's Stephen Miller on CNN also giving them a reality check. Take a look at this.
Is it the case that, as Pritzker frames it, you are profiling brown people, that this immigration crackdown is designed to go after people of color?
It's such a, oh, what a dumb question. The illegal aliens who are here are taking jobs away from blacks. They're taking jobs away from whites. They're taking jobs away from Latinos. They're taking their health benefits away. They're taking their school slots away. And of course, in many cases, they're committing heinous crimes. We cannot have a system of law in this country that privileges illegal aliens over American citizens. And that's what they're doing. You know it, and I know it.
So that's not exactly a no, Stephen. Can you just unequivocally that the immigration policy...
I said it's a dumb question. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that. But
it's a dumb question.
So no, this policy is not designed to... I thought
when I said it was a dumb question, it meant no.
Well, I just want to be clear and precise. I appreciate you trying to qualify my questions, but nevertheless, I think it's a fair one that a lot of people have.
My full answer is no, that is a lie, and it's a dumb question.
Okay. I mean, this guy, Stephen Miller, right? He knows exactly how to handle these people because it is a stupid question. So are you guys actually targeting black and brown people? What do black people have to do with this? I'm not understanding that still. Why does the media have this urge to always include black people into their messaging? I don't want to be a part of this. We are not a part of this. This is criminal, illegal aliens. Doesn't matter what country you came from. If you cross that border illegally and you have been committing crimes, the Trump administration is coming after you. That is the bottom line. That's got nothing to do with your skin color. We've seen it. Koreans have been deported. Asians have been deported. We saw Chinese deported. In fact, the largest ICE operation was not people who were Hispanic. It was people who were Chinese. Look it up. But of course, CNN isn't going to talk about that because they want to ask stupid questions. Well, here he is again, making another mistake with Stephen Miller. Take a look.
If a Democratic president someday calls the National Guard to a red state over what they see as open rebellion, but is what amounts to a demonstration that gets rowdy. I mean, is that not a fear of
they're posting
yours?
pictures of their kids because it's a demonstration, and they have a sniper on top of a building firing a high-caliber rifle at an ICE facility because it's a demonstration, and they are engaging in vehicle ramming.
But the National Guard isn't being sent to Texas.
Because it's a
the National Guard
demonstration.
isn't being sent to Dallas, where that sniper was.
Because the Dallas Police Department and the governor of Texas, well, you walked right into that one, have responded to every call for assistance and help. They gave a stand-down order in Chicago, and they gave a stand-down order in Portland. Do you realize that there's 11,000 federal law enforcement officers in Oregon? That's larger than the size of the FBI. Local and state police are resourced to deal with this kind of riotous assembly, but they have refused. They've been given a stand-down order. So
they've arrested
we need
some
to use
70
National
people
Guard and
since
federal
June.
Troops
They've been
to
arresting
fill in
folks
that
on the
breach.
ground. They've been arresting folks on the ground. They refute what you're saying outright.
We literally have the 911 audio of the stand-down order in Chicago, and we have documented inside of DHS every single unresponded to 911 call over the recent weeks and months.
And now we realize why people don't watch CNN. This is just another reason. I only watch it only because I have to communicate what's going on here in the news. Other than that, I have no desire to watch them on my off time because this is the crap that they pull. How are you going to argue against a stand-down order that not only do we have a recording of, but there's clear documentation showing that they have been issuing stand-down orders in Portland. Even the local affiliate news stations have been reporting on that. But you're trying to argue that by saying, well, they have arrested some people. Okay, give me a break, guy. Give me a break. I mean, when you have people being rammed off the road and people are trying to kill ICE officers, you think that is worthy of a debate and you're trying to argue against that? I'm not following that exactly.
David Urban,
wow.
You were laughing watching the mayor there.
I was
What's
laughing
that reaction?
I was laughing at a couple of things. One, it's like, there's a saying in the law, res ipsa loquitur, the thing speaks for itself. So you have protesters wrestling and tussling with ICE officials, prohibiting them from doing their job. Exactly what the Trump administration is saying is occurring and why there needs to be federal presence, federal troops there to help protect those ICE agents. So you just watch that video and you can see exactly why you need it. And then Brandon Johnson, the mayor, saying that we have to uphold the rule of law, but yet we're going to allow illegal immigrants to run free in our ICE-free zone city. There is a law that says if you cross the border illegally, it's a crime. And so you can't, in one hand, say we're going to uphold the law, and another hand say, well, certain laws we're going to uphold. We think that immigration stuff's kind of poo-poo, and we're not going to enforce it, but we will enforce this. So I think that it's a joke. It's laughable.
Well, according to the president, he doesn't believe he needs to invoke the Insurrection Act. But when you have gang members putting bounties on ICE officials, it's getting to the point where they are insurrectionists. I mean, it says right here, the Insurrection Act gives the president the power to deploy the U.S. military and federalize the National Guard to suppress insurrections, enforce federal law, or quell domestic violence in specific extreme circumstances. And also to enforce federal law when it's impossible to do so through ordinary judicial means due to unlawful obstructions, combinations, or rebellion. Okay? And that's what we continue to see in Portland and Chicago. So I think that is the bottom line to it. But here's the president saying he doesn't think he's ready for the Insurrection Act yet. Take a look.
Over a weekend. What?
The Insurrection Act, under what conditions or terms would you?
Well, I'd do it if it was necessary. So far it hasn't been necessary, but we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up, sure, I'd do that. I mean, I want to make sure that people aren't killed. We have to make sure that our cities are safe.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is the bottom line to this update today from the president, with that federal judge declining to block his order of National Guard troops in regards to this governor who continues to fight against the president. And that is, we have to keep people safe in America. People spend too much money of their tax dollars, their time and their energy, okay, And all they're asking in return is, hey, can you just make sure that you're, holding people accountable? And if you find a criminal, you actually lock them up. I mean, these are common sense expectations. They're not radical. It's not radical for the police department to respond to Antifa and get them out of there. It's not radical for the local PD to hand over criminal illegal aliens to ICE. The problem, though, is that these Democrat leaders have programmed their base to believe that is extremism and it's radical, and that's why they respond the way that they do. So, brings me to the question in this video that I'd like to hear from you guys in the comments section below. If you were in charge, what would you do about that governor and that mayor in Chicago? Okay, what would you do with them? Should they be removed from office immediately? According to Matt Walsh, he wants to see the mayor arrested immediately. Let me know what you guys think about all of that in the comments section below. Okay, this takes us to our next video where that Chicago mayor did the unthinkable when he issued an executive order to establish what is known as ICE-free zones. If you want to know exactly what that means and what it looks like, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.